They still, yeah.
It's my little nephews. My dad at his job wears like a vest like that, and so they want to be like him, so they got them those little outfits.
They got that little outfit, huh? That's great. See that? Yeah.
Work on a little kid.
Okay, Tom, can you say and spell first and last name?
First name, last name, what?
Can you spell both, please?
Yes, Tom, T-O-M. Let me throw them out. O-W-L, no. A-L-E-X-A-N-D-E-R.
Thanks. Okay, so starting off, tell me about your upbringing, your childhood. What were your parents like?
Parents were very special. As I shared, big family, 9 kids in the family, and so a poor family, but a lot of love, a lot of grace. Dad was a very hard worker. He took care of the family as good as he could with the funds that he made. Mom, Cherokee Indian, Dad, full-blooded Mexican, and he really was a smart guy. He spoke 5 languages. He played many instruments, and Mom, of course, Cherokee and Irish. And so we have a mixture of kids, 9 kids altogether. I'm the second oldest, and very good, close family. I had a good childhood, starting out young, involved in school, enjoyed school very much, well, if you believe it, I enjoyed English classes and journalism classes. I think I learned everything I know today by the 7th or 8th grade as far as the things that interest me, which was, writing and journalism, as well as what they call general power mechanics, which is working with machines to build wooden stuff. Such as I love making wood projects right now, and I make big crosses for people, but also I create bins for people, and I learned all these little life skills in the 7th and 8th grade. And I felt that had some great teachers. School was easy for me. I enjoyed that. Plus I also enjoyed sports. Enjoyed playing baseball, basketball, football, and track. And so just a normal childhood, and enjoyed doing things with people. Had good friends, had several close buddies. And so my childhood was good up until the 9th grade, and that's when I began to get a little angry about life due to some things that happened as far as Dad was concerned. Again, he was full-blooded Mexican, so prejudice was pretty big in Texas, and even though he never personally took that personally, I began to take things personally when things happened to him, whether he was fired or prejudiced against, and he never would lash out, but I found myself having a real rage about how they were treating, my dad. And so I had began to have a lot of pent-up anger towards society, and I began to think that society owed me instead of me owing them. So at the age of, in 9th grade, even before then, that's when I began to break the law. I never got busted for this stuff until I was 22, but I was doing things that I wasn't supposed to do. I was stealing, I was burglarizing, I was what they call rolling drunks, putting knives to drunks and taking their money from them. And so I did that because I wanted to make money. I wanted to have money. And funny, the reason I wanted to make this money was to help Mom and Dad out so that they wouldn't have to have the burden of trying to take care of me as far as, buying clothes and stuff like that. And so that anger continued on, but then after a while I settled in and I decided to go ahead and try to be normal, and I became normal, I guess, but still that rage was in me. And eventually, it got to me to a point where I began to think about doing things that I wasn't supposed to do, and that led up to a bank robbery. Got away with that bank robbery, took off, ended up in Las Vegas, Nevada for a season, and then went to Monterey, California to go surfing and everything, like I wanted to do. But when you're robbing, the FBI's after you. They have all the time in the world to track you down and find you. And of course, I thought I was, never going to be busted. But I ran out of money, so I began to rob people in their homes so I could have money. And I had a vehicle, but I got into a bad wreck because of smoking marijuana. And so I had to steal a car. So I waited out until the night, and I found a home that I thought I could take. And I, like an innocent kid, knock on the door, or a young adult, knock on the door, hey, can I use your phone? My car broke down, and some people are gullible. They let them come in. And when that happened, I robbed them. I tied them up just like you see in the movies and stuff like that. And I thought I had tied them up enough and stole their stuff, and I needed their car, so I stole their car. And as I was driving away, I think I shared that in The Endless Easter, if you read that particular booklet. As I was driving away, I was saying, all right, I'm heading back to, San Francisco Bay Area and then back to Las Vegas. But I looked in the rearview mirror, and guess what I saw? Squad cars with the big old lights blaring and glaring. And as a result, I knew that my time was up. They surrounded me, and they, do what they do good, and put the handcuffs on me. And after that, of course, that's when jail time and then prison time took place.
And talk about Bill Glass and this crusade coming to prison. Where you were at, mentally at that place, and then how your heart turned to want to live for Jesus after that point.
It's funny how God is so good, and of course you don't see it when you're doing your number, you're doing your time, you just want to get it over with, and you're thinking about your future, you're wondering, will you really even have a future? So I'd lay on my iron bunk, the bunk at nighttime, thinking about my future. What was it going to do? Was this really the end of it? I mean, I saw no future because, being a bank robber, being an armed robber, I mean, that's something that people don't laugh at. And I really felt that I was at my wit's end. I really felt that I really had nothing to do except to do my number, do my time, get out, and then what? Well, I'd probably have to continue stealing and robbing, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a free person. You don't get to go to 7-Eleven when you want to. You don't get to go to, any place when you want to. When you're in prison, you're locked up. And I didn't want that for my life, but I didn't know how to change that. The psychologists and experts in prison, they sort of label inmates with what they call being an atavist, a genetic throwback. Something's wrong with you, and you're subhuman, and that's why you do what you do, or you have an extra chromosome, X chromosome, and that makes you more violent, or you're just again, subhuman. And I couldn't buy that. I couldn't, I didn't think that I was just an atavist, a subhuman. I had feelings, and I cared about people. I cared about certain inmates in prison, and yet I still didn't see if there was a future. Well, along came a prison Christian group, Bill Glass Crusade, and they brought in athletes that were the best in their field. The strongest man in the world, the best ball player, basketball, football, baseball player, touting and sharing how good they were in their sports. But what got my attention when they shared was the fact that they said without Jesus, they were nothing. And that got my attention because I always enjoyed, sports, and I always enjoyed seeing some of these super sports stars play, and yet they were telling me and 400 other inmates in that prison gym that without Jesus, they were nothing. Well, I listened to that, and it penetrated that darkness that I had in my mind to a degree, and I said, that's really cool that they were able to do that, but they'd never been in prison, and they couldn't identify with my prison, mentality. But as the day went on and they shared more and more, it began to make sense to me, and I listened to what they had to say. Well, when they gave the altar call, me and my best friend Al was sitting together, and I just nudged him on the leg, and I said, let's get out of here. Let's go ahead and go on, because what's an altar call? That meant nothing to me. I didn't know what that was. And so it was the end of the, the presentation. So we started walking away, but all of a sudden I felt a real strange, powerful nudge that actually turned me toward where the men were standing, waiting for people to come, inmates to come. And then all of a sudden I found myself walking to there, and I was in that row of inmates who said, yes, I want to become a Christian, receive Jesus as my Savior. And so there I was. I wasn't coerced into doing it. It just happened. All of a sudden there was that strange attraction that actually pulled me away from walking away. And I went down there and listened to what they had to say about accepting Jesus Christ as my Savior, because He loved me and He would forgive me of all my sins, and He didn't care where I'd been. He wanted to make a new person out of me. He was saying that to everybody, but that was what I was hearing myself. So I stayed, and I became a born-again believer right then and there in the prison.
1 second. I need to...
In the joint, they call it, the joint.
The joint, the big house, the slammer. I need to